Almost every runner that I talk to has some goal that they would like to achieve. And a lot of those goals are race-related goals. They want to run their first marathon, or maybe this runner wants to run their first ultra marathon, or maybe they have a time goal, maybe running under 20 minutes for the 5K, a certain marathon time that might qualify you for Boston. So every runner is looking to get better. How do you get better? Well, if you want your race performances to improve, we must first improve our training, because training PRs almost always come before race PRs. So what do we do in our training to actually get better, to spur those adaptations that are going to make us into stronger, faster runners? Well, we have to take the next logical step with our training. And if you're taking the next step with your training, if you are progressing, if you are making your training gradually but consistently more challenging from season to season and from year to year, you are going to become a better runner. Perhaps one of the most effective ways of taking the next step with your training, of getting better and giving yourself an opportunity to get those adaptations, is by running higher weekly mileage. Higher weekly mileage is one of the best determinants of success as a distance runner. Because after all, the more you're running, the more workload you are capable of, the harder you can train, and the faster you're going to get. So how do we actually increase our weekly mileage? Because for most runners, this is a huge, huge win. It's going to give you a lot of endurance, a lot of strength, and it's going to make your training a lot easier. But a lot of the times, runners struggle with increasing their mileage. Despite all the benefits, despite how amazing higher mileage and longer long runs actually are. Yes, if you do it safely, you are going to get stronger. You're going to create more durable legs, more durable joints and connective tissues, all through that simple act of repetitively running a lot over and over again. It does make you very, very resilient, as long as you're building gradually. Not only that, but you're building more mitochondria in your muscle cells. You are becoming more efficient the more you run and the longer you go. So there's a lot to love about running higher mileage. And if you think about it, almost all of us are pretty quick. We just need to be able to extend that speed for longer periods of time. That's an endurance issue, and running more mileage is going to help you solve that endurance issue. So if you talk to a lot of runners, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn that almost every runner has a certain number of miles where if they start to run beyond that number, they might get hurt. I know for me personally, I struggled with running 90 miles a week or more. My body just started breaking down, and it happened very consistently. It didn't really matter if it was 2008 and I was training for a marathon, or if it was 2015 and I was training for my first ultra marathon. No matter what I was doing in my training, that amount of mileage just seemed to break me. Now, I wish I knew then what I know now, because now I know that I was most limited by my lack of strength. Now, you guys know that I'm a big proponent of strength training for runners, and I do a lot of body weight training. Up until a few years ago, it's pretty much all I did, and it got me very far. I was a very injury-prone athlete when I was running 50 or 60 miles a week, but being really consistent with body weight strength exercises helped me be able to consistently run about 70 to 80 miles a week. And that amount of strength that I gained from those body weight exercises shielded me from most injuries at those lower mileage levels of maybe about 70 to 80. But as soon as I went higher, I got hurt. What I know now is that I still wasn't strong enough for the even higher mileage levels. The more you want to run, the faster you want to run, the more important it is to get in that strength training. And if you want to do something really competitive, if you want to go beyond what you are currently capable of doing, you have to take that next step. If you're already doing body weight strength exercises, that's great. The next step is lifting heavier weights. So even if you're a runner who has no intention of running 70 miles a week or 90 miles a week, the principle here still is true for all runners. we are limited by our strength, especially as we continue to increase our weekly mileage. So if you're someone who says to themselves, well, I'd love to run more, but I always seem to get hurt around 40 miles a week or even 50 miles a week, strength training is what's going to get you to that next level. Strength training more substantially than whatever you're doing now. Because after all, what got you here is not going to be what it takes to get you there. So if you've been doing a lot of body weight work, fantastic. But if you still seem to get hurt as you inch your mileage up and up over time, we have to be a little bit more strategic then with our strength training and actually start weightlifting in the gym. Now, this concept of taking the next step with our training is really about progression. That's how runners get better. We progress. We go from running 15 miles a week to 20 miles a week, 20 miles a week to 30 miles a week. We start doing more challenging workouts. We start running different types of races, longer long runs, more challenging long runs. Our training always has to progress. And just like our running always progresses, our strength training has to progress as well. And I've seen far too many runners do the same type of strength training week after week, month after month, and even year after year. But no matter where you are in your strength journey, I want to give you basically a 3-point path to progression. So no matter where you are, you'll know where to go next. So if you're not doing any strength training, let's start with a very simple strategy. I call this my sandwiching strategy. A lot of you guys might know this. This is every run that you do, you are going to sandwich it in between a dynamic warm-up, which is usually about 5 to 10 minutes of dynamic flexibility exercises and some light strength work. And then you are going to finish your run with a post-run core or strength workout. Now, this sandwiching concept is going to surround all of your runs. And it's a wonderful way to consistently work in strength training at a level that isn't so extraordinarily difficult. You're only going to be doing maybe maximum 20 minutes of strength work on the days that you're running, and it's all body weight exercises. I have a lot of routines on the strength running site. Some of them use a band. Some of them might use a medicine ball. But for the most part, these are equipment-free strength and core routines that are going to help bridge that transition from not doing any strength work to being very consistent with strength training. Now, if you are someone who's already doing some bodyweight strength routines, maybe you've heard of the standard core routine, the ITB rehab routine, the tomahawk medicine ball workout. All these routines are at Strength Running, and I'm going to link to them all under this video so you can check them all out. But if you've been consistent with these workouts, the next step is to actually start doing some weightlifting. Let's focus on the basics. Squats and deadlifts are likely the two best exercises for runners. They are compound, multi-joint lifts, and they train movements, not muscles. That's exactly what we want to do as runners. It is going to give you the strength needed to be more resilient when you start doing extra mileage. And it's going to really make all of not only your muscles, but your connective tissues, the ligaments, the bones, the tendons, all of those tissues that comprise your joints. For many runners, that's what gets injured. That's what, a tendonitis injury is a connective tissue injury. And if we had more strength, those injuries could likely be reduced or even eliminated entirely. So if you've already been doing the body weight work, let's start doing some fundamental big lifts in the gym. You don't actually even need a gym. You could get a kettlebell or a heavier weight that you have at home. Maybe use a barbell, maybe use an adjustable dumbbell set. I have my favorite one linked under this video too. And this is going to help bridge the gap between bodyweight exercises and then real weightlifting in the gym. Now, if you are someone who's already doing some basic strength training at home with some heavier weights, the next step is to really follow a formal program. A program that is going to treat your lifting just like your running. It should be periodized. It should be progressive. In other words, it's going to move from where you are now to where you'd like to be in the future. And of course, it should be runner specific. This weightlifting can also include some more explosive lifts. So once you've graduated from doing some of the more fundamental exercises, you can then start getting a little bit more advanced with more plyometrics, with more explosive work like Olympic lifts. And that's really going to help you take your strength and turn it into power. And then you have all this power that you can then turn into speed on the course. And that's what every runner wants. Now, just because you're strength training doesn't mean that you can then increase your mileage from 20 miles a week all the way up to 50 miles a week and beyond. You still have to be gradual with your mileage increases. But strength training gives you a little bit of flexibility to increase a little bit more quickly than you would be able to if you weren't doing any strength training. And then also flexibility to make a mistake every once in a while. Every runner makes mistakes. So if you had a 10-mile run on the schedule and you accidentally ran 12, the strength training that you're doing might prevent you from getting injured if you run too much before you're ready for it. So it allows for some training errors, which are going to happen all the time. We all make mistakes, and that's just part of the process. So despite the strength training, we must still increase our mileage gradually. But if we can do that, maybe 5 miles or so per season, maybe about 6 to 10 kilometers per season, so our peak mileage can increase by about that amount from season to season to season. And that might represent a 10 to 20% increase in annual mileage for most runners. Now, if you're really high, you're running 3,000 miles a year, you probably want to increase a little bit more gradually, maybe keep it to 10% maximum. But if you're a new runner, maybe you're only running 400 or 500 miles a year, you could probably increase it a little bit more quickly. But these general ranges will help you think much more long-term about your running, much more long-term about increasing the volume that you're doing so that you can gradually get faster and stronger and gain all that endurance. So like I mentioned earlier, I have a ton of links to all kinds of different strength routines that you can just plug and play directly into your training. Warm-up routines, runner-specific core routines, and strength workouts for runners. Check them out. If you're not strength training yet, this might be the key that allows you to take your training to the next level so that you can take the next step in your racing and race at the next level.